All right, let me start with you, Chris. Could you give me some good advice on how I would go about validating the efficacy of my Gen AI output? Give me some good advice on that.
Good advice. Well, I mean, you could start with a human expert review, cross checking. So essentially, just taking whatever's coming out of there, go to your experts who normally do the manual process that you're using AI to do, and get them to do a sanity check on that.
All right, that's good advice. Now, Rob, do the opposite for me. Give me some bad advice on how you would validate that information.
Well, I think some bad advice would be taking the output of the AI and feeding it back into the AI with the question, is this good output?
That is some superb bad advice. That, by the way, just so you know, you're already thinking like our audience does because I can see them spitting one of those gems out right away. All right, back to you, Chris. One up that. Give me some worse advice.
Well, you can assume the traceability or the black box answers that you're getting from that review of the answers that the consistency check you did for the AI. So again, trusting AI to do traceability for you as opposed to human interface.
That goes to Rob. I'm sorry, Rob wins that round. Regardless, we're starting.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Welcome to Super Cyber Friday. Today's topic is hacking the validity of Gen AI. This is actually a pretty fun topic. An hour of critical thinking about embracing these new tools while still meeting your compliance requirements. All right, the two people we have joining us, I mean, you just saw them, but let me introduce them. It's Rob Gormisky, who's the InfoSec lead and founding engineer over at Forage. And also we have Chris Strand, Global Security and Compliance Officer for ThoroughPass. And a huge thanks to our sponsor, and that would be ThoroughPass. They are responsible for bringing this event to you, our audience. So we greatly appreciate it. All right, lots of different ways to participate. Now, we have a weird bad idea this time. We have the chat room, obviously. But the bad idea is, without actually validating, without doing true validation, how can we make AI seem more trustworthy? What will we do to make AI seem more trustworthy? That would be our bad idea. Just do hashtag bad idea and whatever you think. By the way, if you haven't won one yet, and by the way, I owe a gift card to Lisa Ackerman. So by the way, it's still coming, Lisa. But if you haven't won one, you could win one of these awesome CISO series fleeces if you come up with a really good bad idea. So why aren't you doing that? You should be. Many of our people in the room have one. I would like to give one of these out to one of the new people. So come up with a clever bad idea. All right. Our 10% better tip is how to improve the validation of your AI output. How can we do this better, faster, easier? You can join us at any time with Bring Me On, ask questions of our guests. If you look on the right-hand side, there's an icon that's like a speech bubble with a question mark. Click on that. Ask a question. I lean on your questions before my own questions, and you can also vote for your favorite question. All right, today's schedule, it's the classic. We did our good advice, bad advice, worse advice. Then we have your bad ideas, 10% better tips. We'll play public interest, Department of Yes, last questions answered, and then our meetup. Now, I'm talking to you if you've never come to one of our meetups, which is on Discord. Make sure you have a Discord account. It's a lot of fun. I get to meet you. You get to meet me. You get to meet everybody else. It's a lot of fun, but you can also chat in the chat room. All right. We are not going to have a show for the next 2 weeks, but we will have one at the end of the month, and that is hacking provable security. Very similar to today's topic. So if you like today's topic, you like that one as well. An hour of critical thinking on how to go beyond security ratings and questionnaires. What can we do to prove the value of security? This is proving the value of Gen AI. That'll be proving the value of your security. Hey, there's a link at the bottom of the screen. You can click on it at any time to register for the event that's happening at the end of this month, and you will not be taken out of this chat. All right, that's enough of my nonsense setting up today's show. Please, I want to hear your thoughts in the chat room, so speak up. All right, my first question, let's just set the stage, Chris. Generally, because by the way, just so you know, we've talked to so many companies who are doing compliance. Many of them have been our wonderful sponsors. And almost everyone is somehow implementing AI into the compliance and audit process because it can greatly simplify and speed things up. Generally, that's how I understand it. Maybe you can give me a little bit more meat to that. How are they using it?
Well, they're using it in a number of ways, and it's basically it's normally used to answer the automation question. So really automating policy and document drafting, things like that. So normally a lot of the manual things, the manual pain in the neck things that you have to do during audit are being tossed over to AI to do. Now, and that's usually a good thing because it's speeding up the idea and the process of automation. But what I'm seeing as well is it's being employed in more in further areas where you might want an auditor or an expert to put a critical eye on it. Things like monitoring for regulatory changes and the interpretation of different types of mandates and regulations. So determining if there's materiality in the reports and security control results that you have. We're seeing AI used for some of this because it can collect that information so fast and then monitor. If it's done properly, it can monitor for those core changes that you might want to be alerted on, and then you don't want to get caught off guard with as an organization who needs to be compliant. And then one of the other core areas that I see of the three that I see are major these days are audit data preparation and risk analysis. And that's getting into scary waters because when you're doing data preparation and such, it involves data. And that's where, we're just starting to edge into the danger zone of using AI for compliance.
All right. I'm putting one of the bad ideas that James Sparenberg has. James, this still is identifying him as BS because you're referring to the hallucinations by AI as alternative facts. You're still identifying them. You don't know what's a hallucination yet. I'm gonna call you on that one. We still have to work. Okay, I'm throwing this one over to you, Rob. Now, when did you start? I guess taking advantage of GenAI for your compliance needs, and did you immediately know? Oh, I can't trust everything that's coming out of this, or was there a wake-up call?
No, I absolutely knew that you couldn't trust anything coming out of the AI to begin with. I think there's pretty much nothing that I write at this point that I don't feed it through an AI at some point in the process, whether it's for idea generation or just for editing it after the fact. So definitely, have received a ton of help in our policy writing. I think another place in compliance where AI is extremely helpful is answering vendor diligence questionnaires. We've probably answered over 100 of them at Forage by this point, given all the partners that we work with. And so, it's definitely possible to train an AI basically to do the first pass of all of those things. There's nothing that we send out of our security team without having a human in the loop look at it. But certainly for the drafting, it's essential.
Okay, so leaning on AI a lot for all kinds of writing, coding, writing, idea generation, whatnot. Now, certain things like idea generation, well, it comes up with BS on idea generation, big deal. You don't need to validate any of that. But let me go back to you, Chris. What becomes, let's start with hypercritical that you have to validate and that you find many sort of compliance teams trying to do. Let's start at the apex. What is the most sort of worrisome, if you will?
Well, yeah, where I see compliance groups and such drawing the line is around data privacy and confidentiality. That's the number one, because this is something that even in a manual sense is sometimes not followed, or it's by mistake. I'm not going to point fingers, but somebody might let something slip, and then before you know it, company IP or PII is out there floating around in AI land, and who knows what's happening to that because now it's being indexed, and that's a whole other discussion of worry that you have to consider as a compliance professional. So, and it basically trickles down from there to the accuracy and accountability of the outputs that you're getting on that particular data that you're feeding in, be it whether the privacy and confidentiality has been considered, and then sort of the transparency of those results. I see a lot of compliance professionals questioning that, sort of the black box recommendations that you're getting out of AI. Often supporting data is not necessarily, you saw that bad idea on hallucinating.
Turning them to alternative facts. Yes.
Exactly. So just sort of blindly trusting or not questioning, not taking a step back and questioning those black box recommendations that you're getting is one of the areas where I see professionals pushing back, or compliance auditors and such pushing back and saying, look, we don't want to employ AI for this particular section of this audit because it's there's too much more training and input that we would have to put into AI, that it would make it longer than the manual process we already follow.
By the way, Shomo put this as a 10% better tip, and it has the stink of a bad idea. I don't know. And Shoma, I'm going to ask you to explain put the word cheese in there so people don't catch you. Don't catch you doing what? What is it they're going to catch you doing? Anyways, get your bad ideas in. This is a kind of a tricky one. I know that it's kind of a tricky one we're asking you to do, but please get them in. All right. And get your questions in. We want those as well. All right. All I've heard right now is that the validation is being very human done, and so what other tools do we have at our disposal? I'll ask with you, Rob, that maybe you can lean on a non-human to do first, and maybe have a human do second. Like, what other tools do we have?
So I have a little bit of experience with this. I've spoken to some friends that are deploying kind of AI agents on sort of a consulting basis at other companies. And they think of it very much like writing a test case in your code. And so they, take the output of an AI and basically check for certain keywords. For example, if you're asking a question about your databases and the word encrypt doesn't show up in there, that output was probably wrong, or hopefully you're encrypting your databases. So there's certain kind of keywords you can check for in the outputs. And I know I said this as bad advice in the beginning, but it is totally possible to, feed the output into a separate model. So let's say you used ChatGPT to generate your answers. Claude may have a different perspective just because they've been trained on different data. So it's not really bad advice.
So actually, so that's a good point. If you feed it back to itself, it's not so good advice. But if you feed it to its friends, pretty damn good advice. That is an interesting take. We can go from bad to good in just a simple move. It is actually a good idea because we've done this before. We've had something outputted by one AI model and then asked the other ones to edit it for us, kind of a thing. Have you done this, Chris?
Absolutely have done this. So with the advent of many internal AI systems, meaning, okay, let's say I'm using, maybe my own company has their own employed version of some sort of AI, meaning it's internal. It would respect the privacy concerns, the data protection concerns, and everything else. So yeah, definitely feeding it into a different model and then putting the additional layer of security on using the internal version of AI, be it maybe even in a solution. So I've definitely done this at Thoropass because I use the AI modules that are built into the solution. So it adds that additional layer of safety and credibility.
Well, let me go back to something also you said too. That's a really good point, Chris. But something you said, Rob, in that asking you work for the word encrypt or detect. But one of the things that's nice about these AI models is you can tell them to think like a certain type of person or a certain type of editor, if you will, and say, I'm very concerned with privacy. Could you re-look at the results here and tell me what would sort of spike your interest if it was a privacy concern? Can you sort of guide it down the road that you want it to do, Rob?
Absolutely. You can definitely leave a prompt at kind of multiple layers with the AI. So, depending on how
give me some examples. I said one, and I don't know if that's the one you do, but give me some examples.
Yeah, one I really like to use is just say hey, I really care about the OWASP top 10, or, tell it the compliance framework that you're working with, and it can go out and kind of Google a bunch of articles about that, summarize them, and then apply it to your use case. So yeah, referencing a compliance framework and referencing a set of security standards, whether it's OWASP or the NIST cybersecurity framework, I find that is actually a very, very helpful prompt because it kind of puts it in the mindset of enterprise security from the beginning.
And a good point is if you could parse this out via the framework, parse each element out, and then the human can take a look with their own eyeballs. Chris, you were kind of nodding along with this, yes?
Well, Absolutely, because it gets back to the one of my main points around using AI is training it on how you expect those results to appear back to whatever your policy is, or whatever the way that you do security within your organization. So as Rob is saying, like, we respect and follow the OWASP top 10 when we create structures in a web forum. So when you look at my results on this audit, or test these security controls and give me some information back on those, even in regardless of what you're feeding in, it will know now that, oh, well, I need to sort of add on the layer of whatever security that you're following within your organization, be it OWASP or whatever it might be, whatever that policy is, or maybe a mandate that your company has to work with. So it gets back to that idea of actually training your AI harness in the way that you want results to be produced. And you're building up an index. And this is the type of information that's not, you're not feeding it the financial records of your customers or something like that. This is just policy information that's common throughout the world. So it's not going to have a negative impact on your one of the many aspects of security that you need to follow within the organization while training AI at the same time.
All right, we have our first game, and we're going to play it right now.
Do you know what others are thinking? On the public interest.
All right, here it is, the public interest. This game's good. You've never played here, Rob, but I believe, Chris, you have played. It's going to make perfect sense. The audience is going to play along. 4 questions, very difficult to get 4 out of 4, but some have done it. I've done it once. Just to give you an idea, I do it all the time. I did not create this game. Our phenomenal producer, Rich Stroffolino, did. And A, no C. Hold on, Andrew Aiken. He's jumping the gun here. Here we go. Question number 1. All right. What gets more monthly search queries? The word hallucinate or validate? Oh, that's a good one. Hallucinate or validate? What do you think, Rob?
I'd have to say hallucinate. I think that's the hot topic right now.
Hot topic. And by the way, understand it's not just security people. It's all people who use the interwebs. Chris?
I would go with A as well. I mean, I've searched for it at least 5 or 6 times this week alone.
But you are a different egg. I'm going to say validating. Here's my argument, and I say it all the time. The one that's harder to spell is usually the one that is not going to win. So let's see if my theory works. We're going to find out. My theory worked, yes. Ooh. Hallucinate is tougher to spell than validate. I don't think everyone knows it has 2 L's in it. All right. So I've got 1. The 2 of you got 0. Okay. Assess, check, and testing. Remember, this is people just typing the word assess. It's not like assess and something else or check this. So they're just typing in this one word. I couldn't tell you why, but they are. So what do you think? Assess, check, or testing?
I'm going to have to go with check, right? We're going with the simplest word now, right, David? I'm buying your strategy.
This is my strategy that usually
I'm
works.
Selecting that as well. It's got to be D.
I think we're all going to go with check. I think everyone else is there too. Hold on. It doesn't always work. Oh, but it does this time. There you go. All right. D, check. There we go. Let's go. Bias, entropy, and uncertainty. I think they're all difficult to spell, to tell the honest truth. I'm going to speak first. I'm going to say bias.
I'm going to go for uncertainty. I think that's got to be it these days.
I'm thinking bias. F.
All right. 2 on bias, 1 on uncertainty. The correct answer is... It is... Oh, we all lose. Whoa. We all lose on that one. By a lot. Oh, my God. Who would have known entropy would be that popular? That's a surprise to me. All right. I've got 2. The 2 of you each have 1. Let's see. This might be a tiebreaker or not. Ooh. I'm going to say these are all equally difficult to spell, so that theory is not going to work here. Accuracy, alignment, consistency, or reliability?
Well, I work for a payments company, so I have to say reliability here.
Reliability?
I'd say accuracy.
I'm going reliability. I'm going with you, Rob. Rob and I are on reliability. Chris is on accuracy. Let's see who is the most accurate or reliable. We're all wrong. It's alignment. Which, by the way, I think that's the toughest one to spell there, too. All right. So the two of you got one. I got two. Did anyone do well? 3 or 4. Good job on Aman Sood on that one. Very, very good. Did anyone go 4 for 4 on that? But 3 for 4 is very, very good. All right. This comes to portion time because we've been dancing around like different ways to prove the essentially the veracity of this AI output. We've talked about different ways to talk to AI. This is something that ThoroughPass does. So I'm going to kind of hand the floor to you, Chris. Please explain to us, what is ThoroughPass doing to validate the effectiveness or the output of GenAI?
Well, I mean, simply put, it's it is an automation platform encompassing audit and everything, and considering all the security controls within. So it's essentially answering that second part of AI that we've been talking a lot about, is consistency in the information and proving the data, the information that's coming out while using an AI harness. So, the idea is it's taking that manual sense of AI, utilizing AI to get past all the onerous manual input that you would normally have to do. So it's enabling you to accelerate your audit from that perspective, but then lining that up with all the core controls. So meaning all that, cutting and pasting you would normally do, and interpreting questionnaires and then fitting those into the security controls of the compliance regulation that you're trying to prove that you're compliant with at your organization. It's getting you to that point and utilizing AI to do all of that grunt work, essentially, and that manual work, speeding that up, but then giving you irrefutable, well, I would say irrefutable. I wouldn't say that in the legal sense, but I would say data, evidence-based data that you can count on.
Better way.
Yes, that you can count on and allow you to sleep at night, right? So that you've used AI, you've followed all those policies, because the harness on top of that, the platform would allow you then to show the data behind those various answers that you have on your audit process. So it's been validated for you, and you have the data backup so that you can say, well, here's why this control is whatever it's at. Here's why my posture is where it is around all these controls. And AI helped me find that, but I've got the data to back it up. So it's giving you sort of the best of both worlds.
So I like this. So there's an evidence trail, if you will. All right. I have just made this available. There is a poll that is we actually have 2 polls up, but there is a poll right now. Would you like a warm handoff to learn more from ThoroughPass? And I know you do. Many of you do. If you came here, you're interested in this topic. If you want to see how they're doing exactly what Chris described, we'll make that warm handoff. But in addition to that, so go to the poll. The poll, by the way, if you don't know where the poll is, if you look at the icons on the right, there's one that looks like a little bar chart. Go start clicking on that. And I see some votes are coming in. People would love to have a warm handoff. But not only that, can we do that for you, but, and someone on the team will do this, we also did, Chris gave me a demo of the product, and we can drop the link in here, but we'll also make that available on Sunday when we drop the newsletter of the best comments. By the way, Rob and Chris, I'm putting you on notice now. You have to start saying, what am I saying? Start saying more, because you've been doing very well at the beginning of the show, more wise things, because what happens is we pull your best quotes and we put it in our Sunday newsletter. So keep it pithy.
Okay.
That's my call on you. Yes. But you're doing a great job so far. So make sure you all look out for the Sunday newsletter. And there is the ThoroughPass demo. Our producer, Josh, just threw it right in there. So thank you very much, Josh, for doing that. All right. We do have some questions that came in. And they didn't make full sense to me. Actually, Aman Sood, I may ask you to do that. But here, let's go with Shomo's question here. How would you react to... I don't know if this is a legitimate question at all. Now I'm looking at this. Okay, I'll just throw it up there and ask, has this ever happened? I can't imagine it has. but you can do a quick answer to this, like just say no. It has. How would you react to a senior tech leader suggesting removal of ethics or bias from your AI governance policy, asking for a friend? Has this ever happened? No, it hasn't.
Not to me personally. Yeah, we're very concerned about ethics and bias at Forge. I can promise you that.
Okay. Have you ever seen this happen, Chris?
No, it sounds like a good bad idea to me.
No, it does
That
look like a good bad
could
idea.
Yeah, so definitely not. That's
Okay. All right. I'm going to pull that right. This is a good question from James Sparenberg. Okay. Right now, there are an abundance of LLMs. We're questioning, are there more podcasts or are there LLMs out there? We'll find out. But I think they're having a race between the two. So this is a good question. How do you recommend choosing the right LLMs for your company/needs? Now, Rob, you were talking about, having them sort of feed off of each other or having these tools. But I mean, is there certain LLMs good for certain companies and not others? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first kind of decision point is whether you want to use a privately hosted or a publicly hosted model. Obviously, the publicly hosted models are far more convenient, but if you're seriously concerned about privacy, you might want to look into hosting your own version of an open source model, like maybe Meta's Llama. And then I would say you can go out and read sort of folks' reactions to the different models. I think, for example, Claude is extremely good at computer science tasks. So if you're using a code editor like Cursor, then I would definitely suggest using Claude as the underlying model there. And then, yeah, certain models obviously have different protections around, how vulgar is the content or how friendly is the content that comes out of it. So if that matters to you, then yeah, choose a model accordingly.
Actually, before we jump into so this is a question of Mansood that references what you just said, Rob. Okay, I'm putting this up. What is the best way to prevent the model using Dan mode, the do anything now mode? This mode can, upon request, provide some very vulgar, uncensored, racist, and harassing content. Firms must disable it holistically. Like, first of all, I have not been faced with it. I've been using ChatGPT mostly. But Chris, have you seen this? Like, certain modes that just sort of spit out things that maybe you shouldn't be seeing and shouldn't be are NSFW, not safe for work.
Yeah, so I have, and it's it's usually because of the lack of a solid responsibility and statement of accountability policy within the organization. So I work across a lot of different companies and businesses, and that's where I've seen folks using a variety of models to get information out, and you're taking a risk if you're using maybe a less reputable model to get your information out. And it's usually because you failed to put in place that responsibility checklist and whatnot. And it's not just a checklist. It's usually a formal statement of how you're using AI and what models you should be using. And it's essentially the internal policy of the organization. So, depending on what you're trying to do, definitely within the audit sense, you probably want to make sure that you have that accountability statement, that responsibility checklist in place amongst your compliance team, or at least your, the internal stakeholders that are going to be conducting the audit, or they're using a platform that you've sanctioned before you get into waters like this, because it has many implications in terms of using that for the company and what the company's doing, like basically putting the company in jeopardy, putting IP in jeopardy, and other things like that. So there's a number of perspectives that you need to consider with that. So getting that in place would be a good first step, and making sure that it's enforced.
Excellent. And I, honestly, this sounds as simple as like, hey, can we get family mode here? Can we get the PG rating on this?
Right.
I mean, it's not too hard. I think this is not a big leap. All right. So let's get into the obvious. We were talking about privacy earlier. What safeguards have you found to be most effective to prevent GenAI from leaking the sensitive or regulated data? So, I mean, first, you got to identify what it is and wonder how you're doing that. I'll start with you, Rob, on that. How are you identifying it? And then, the second question is, what safeguards are you put in place to essentially avoid people from accidentally leaking it out?
Right. I think there's both cultural and technical solutions to this. I mean, obviously, we'll start with the cultural things first of just educating your employees, sort of about what data is sensitive, what things we don't want to send off to the AIs. Should be obvious that you don't want to send, credit card information or, someone's personally identifying information, but also things like intellectual property. There's certain aspects of our code which we ask our engineers not to share out. For example, how we perform PIN encryptions, something I don't want the AIs learning and being able to regurgitate. But you're also going to see a number of technical safeguards see additional adoption over time. For example, there are now AI firewall applications that will basically look at network traffic out of your machine out to the various models and attempt to determine, similar to how your email DLP works, right, where it can tell if there's a credit card number in there and stop that email from getting out of your system. There will be AI firewalls more widely deployed that will prevent you from sending out, sensitive data to an AI. Lake Cara has one right now. I've talked to a YC company called Red AI that's producing a firewall like this. From my perspective, it seems like the EDR players are very well positioned to do this. So, CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, I guarantee you in 3 years, they're going to have AI firewall type of features.
Yeah, well, everyone's building AI in some sort. As well. Get your questions in, by the way. Also, if you haven't clicked it yet, please, that link at the bottom of the screen where it says register for the one on 5/30/25, our next event, please click on that. You can register for it. You won't be taken out of this event. Be fine. And also, if you haven't clicked on the poll to get the nice warm handoff to the people of ThoroughPass, do just that, please. And get your bad ideas in. We have a bunch, but we're going to be playing the Department of Yes very shortly. Remember, if you haven't won one of these already, you could win one if your best bad idea is chosen by my panel of CISOs who actually look at the best bad ideas and they determine the winner are there. Okay. Here's a good question. Are there any early signs that your Gen AI is hallucinating or generating bogus data of some sort? Like, what are there any telltale signs? What would we be able to know outside of some of the tips you're given, like, well, have another Gen AI take a look at it with these, quote, editorial eyes?
Yeah.
Chris?
Well, really, I mean, the first thing is, and we've discussed this a little bit, is early stages, some lack of source references and evidence links.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So normally when
go.
you do an AI search, you look for something like I've done a lot on, I've used it a lot for competitive research and things like this. And it saves you the time of going and looking at all those websites and collecting all that data together. And you would normally see there would be little bubbles associated with each of the answers that says, I went to this site, I grabbed this, and there's basically references. So if you don't have decent references or they don't make sense, then you should question what those results are that are coming back, that you probably, maybe AI is misinterpreting what you're asking. And also on the flip side, if it's an overly confident or absolute statement, when it's like almost like a yes or no answer that you're getting back from AI, that you would want to add some additional integrity check against that to validate that. We also talked about the types of findings that you're getting. Like if you're jumping around to put some safeguards in place, and maybe you're using private and public modes and you're switching between. If you're getting like inconsistent and illogical findings between those, this is another early sign that again, AI might be misinterpreting what you're getting, or you're just not getting. You're getting garbage back. So you need to reformulate your questions and really think about how you're inputting that information into AI.
Very, very good point. Anything else to add to that, Rob? Because I think essentially, if it doesn't come back with references, then you've got problems.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think kind of before you see the output, there's also a setting in the model generation called the temperature of the model. Mm-hmm. So you can ask the model to adjust its own temperature before it produces a response to you. So if you are not familiar with that concept, I definitely recommend checking it out because it will
Well,
prevent
why don't you explain
hallucination.
explain to our audience the concept?
So like, let's say you're calling the OpenAI API, right?
Hmm.
You are going to pass in a chat history, and it's going to give you back the next message in the chats. But the input is not just the chat history. There's also this thing that they call temperature. It's a number from 0 to 100, and it basically tells you how random or how much hallucination are you willing to deal with. So a very low temperature response will hallucinate very little. And so if you're working on a use case, for example, legal advice or answering security questionnaires, you would want very, very low temperature on your model, such that it's not going to hallucinate many responses. It'll be much less creative, which is why this setting exists. But yeah, for security purposes, you're going to want to adjust that temperature down. If you're not directly calling the AI, you can basically use words to get it to adjust its own temperature, right? So whenever you type a query into a chatbot, there's a pre-processing that happens that determines, how am I going to answer this query? And so one of the things that pre-processing will do is adjust the model temperature based on what you're asking about. So if you ask it to produce a haiku, it'll give you a very high temperature. It'll be very creative. If you ask it for health advice, it's going to use a very low temperature setting on the model. So just be aware that that's a concept that exists in generation and that you do have control over it.
And it sounds, and I remember talking to you about this before, Chris, and it sounds like you sort of have this built into ThoroPass, and that if it's hallucinating, essentially, you essentially want to, if I remember the model of the temperatures, low temperature means I don't want any hallucinations, correct? Right. So you have it you kind of have ThoroPass set for low temperature, yes?
Well, absolutely, because those references and evidence checks are built into the process. So it's essentially, it's that matching of data associated with your expected results is done for you. So yes, so unequivocally, yes, set to low temperature.
All right. Well, we are ready for our next game.
Hello, welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
All right. There's a lot of really good bad ideas here. Again, I am going to rate you on the quality of it. You are going to have to tell me why you want to deploy this without being facetious. And if you like it, both our audience and me will let you know if we like your bad idea. All right. Here we go. I'm going to start with you, Chris, here. Run a competition between the business teams, marketing versus sales versus HR, et cetera, allowing them to use different Gen AI tools. So that's so far, not a bad idea. Winner will be the team that produces the most not accurate results, policies, and playbooks, et cetera. So they just got to generate data. Not hard to generate a lot of it with AI. What better way to test more tools without the contracts or enterprise investment? Why do you want to do this?
Well, I totally want to do this because the cost is going to be next to nothing. So resource cost is I'm going to get this approved in a second. So that alone should validate the reasoning behind this insane competition that we're going to run.
Which I go, okay, Rob, why do you want to do this?
We might be able to learn from what were the methods that got us all of the terrible outputs. And yeah,
I think be a little more confident. I think you will learn. You definitely will learn. Yeah, this is a productivity boon. Don't you think so? I mean, they're all going nuts, and you're making it competitive. I think you got
exactly
here. All right, come on. You could. Yeah, I want you to be more behind it. Here we go. I got another one here. I'll start with you on this one, Rob. Give AI ungated authority. Oh, this, by the way, did I say who gave us the last one? My apologies if I did. The last one was Rajitha Maror. Rajitha Maror gave us the last one. My apologies for not giving proper credit. So now I have this one comes from Shomo Chowdhury, and Shomo says, give AI ungated authority to decide and change production configurations. Example, lazily instructed to do its best and trust that it does. I kind of like this idea. Shomo's the one who contributed. Rob, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's probably plenty of things in everyone's AWS environment where they may have missed a knob to turn or may have missed to flip on the encryption flag. So I think
Which,
there's
by the way,
absolutely
we
ways
see
to
these
be
problems
useful.
all the time. Why not let AI have ungated authority to do this? I mean, these are classic ways that things get breached. All right, why do you want to do this, Chris?
Well, I want to do this because, I mean, the heck with mandates and regulatory compliance. I mean, it's just a drag on time. So, we can just assume that we do everything correctly, and that unfettered access that we're going to grant is never going to, disrespect any privacy or anything like
If
that.
you
So,
ask it not to, it won't, right?
well, usually no. I mean, you got to trust it. It's a machine. It's AI. It's smarter than us. So, yeah.
At some point, we do have to trust. Sir, yes, sir. I agree. Good job, both of you. I'm impressed. All right, we got a little bit of time left on today's show, and then, by the way, for everyone who's watching, stick around for our meetup portion at the end of the show. But until then, two things I want you to do: one, click the link at the bottom of the screen. Two, register for our event that's going to be happening on 5:30, and do not forget to go to the poll. You want a warm handoff to the nice people over at ThoroughPass, go to that poll. Just all you have to do is click one of the options or three of them. Click any of them, and we'll make that introduction happen. All right, we have questions from our audience. This is interesting. Let me look at these other ones. Regista Marur asked this question. I'll start with you, Chris. What are some good security metrics or ways to measure the ROI for the AI? So you want to look, we're using the AI, we're validating it. Is it actually a boon for us? What ways have you seen to measure that, yes, we should be doing this, it's worth our time and money to do this?
Security metrics, interesting. So, when you align your information collection in AI with your security policy, you have a really good, there's some great metrics because all those security metrics have been built into most of the cybersecurity frameworks that any organization has to follow. And anytime you can get information on any security controls that are proved, that have efficacy essentially. So you've got that evidence-based data. Those metrics will automatically relate to ROI for using AI. I mean, that's usually the way that, flipping it on its head, that I would sell the reason for using AI for manual tasks when it's respecting the security policy. So in an internal sense, any metric that can be aligned with a security control is going to have ROI immediately behind it, or for the use of AI, we'll have it behind it. So, if it shows that a security control is in place, being used and utilized the way it's supposed to be, as per even a security policy that you have in your organization, be it many of them, credit card industry, maybe it's PCI DSS or something like that, something that Rob and I know a lot about. That's immediate ROI for using AI, because it's not only giving you answers, but it's also telling you that it's aligning with a security control that you can then put stock in and create materiality around, and that's a double win.
Very, very good point. I'm going to ask you, Rob, when did you realize that this was the wise thing to do? I think you knew jumping into it, but did you have proof later on?
Proof that it was wise to use.
Well, wise, it's saving you money. It's being more accurate. It's like we're not spinning our wheels. Like, what was your validation for and were there any specific metrics you used? This is what we want to know.
Yeah, we definitely think about like kind of the turnaround time of, answering a questionnaire from a customer or, producing a policy in the first place. We're also looking at, in terms of metrics, the number of vulnerabilities, obviously the number of CVEs that are out there in our code and the open source packages that we use. I found that AI is actually incredible at kind of going out and reading the change log for a package, making sure it's not impacting the code, and then doing the package update. So, our time to respond to a vulnerability that shows up in our open source dependencies has come down significantly. I would say in terms of metrics that we've moved, that is definitely the most impactful one.
Very good. And I want to point out this one from James Sparenberg. This is very much, he's fully on board with the thorough pass philosophy here. Make sure your AI knows it's okay to say, I don't have an answer. That seems like probably the best thing we can get out of this is if it's clearly saying, I don't know for sure, or these are the avenues I tried and I couldn't find it. Then you know what it tried, so you don't have to double your effort there. But B, you don't have to play the game of, is it telling me the truth or not? So letting it know that is quite good advice as well. We got actually lots of good advice coming in from our very smart and intelligent audience, and I appreciate you coming as well. All right, get some more of your questions in, please. Let me go. All right. Oh, okay. So I want to know how GenAI can inadvertently cause non-compliance issues because you talked about essentially setting up the standards or frameworks and putting it against your compliance effort. But if you're looking at GDPR, HIPAA, or CCPA, three big ones right now, can you just simply put that information in and say, please align it with this, or how can it inadvertently cause a problem, and how do we essentially know it's happening? Chris, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's so this actually tags on with what Rob was answering earlier around uses of AI, and the intended. So, if you're using AI to essentially be more proactive at checking things, meaning, when we talked about security controls, and I'll get to my reason on why this would inadvertently put you out of compliance. If you're using it to essentially check more often, because manually we can't do that as humans. It's difficult. We have to write test harnesses and look at things. So if you're using it from the standpoint of running checks more often around, let's say, a security control or a compliance guideline, this is an effective way to get more information back more proactively. Now, when you get into the inadvertent cause of noncompliance, you look at GDPR, HIPAA, or any of these data protection regulations where you need to be very careful with that data. You need to adhere to that policy. Well, normally what we see is unintentional exposure of personal protected data because if you're not taking the approach of safeguarding that data, meaning let's say you're not anonymizing data, or you haven't given your teams test data that's been tokenized or something along those lines, and someone just someday says, I got to get this done, I'm just going to feed in all this information on my customers. Well, it's very simple to do. It takes 2 seconds and it's happened within the AI sense. So now that data is all out there, and it's put your company in a very precarious situation because not only is the individual going to be in hot water, but the company will too, because you share customer data or IP or something along these lines, healthcare data, PHI, whatever it might be. There's, the sign of this happening is when you don't have that explainability between your metrics of what you're getting back from AI, essentially, so that you've inadvertently leaked this information. It's put you at risk because now the data's out there. So and you can't prove the retention of that unauthorized data, which is immediately put you in that precarious situation because all those data protection mandates, like the aforementioned ones we talked about, all require you to let your customers know where their data is, how it can be deleted, what right you have to use it, all of these wonderful things. So the minute it's out in AI land, you are basically in that situation where just the pure retention or use of that data has put you out of compliance with those mandates.
Hold it. I'm going to throw this James Sparenberg question just on what you just said right now, because he said, has there been an issue with AI where it is seeing a commonly taken action, like during training, and unable to distinguish between compliant and non-compliant actions? I mean, have you seen that before, Chris?
Definitely seen that. Yes, and it goes back. I hit with my teams that I work with. We really drive it home that we need to follow our security policy within AI as we would. It sounds like it's a very simple thing, and it's almost ad nauseum to say when I repeat this is that we have a security policy in place. Most organizations will. They'll have a data protection policy in place. They may be following GDPR or CCPA or with working with healthcare data. Those policies are in place. We have them. So put them in place with AI as well. So I've definitely seen this happen because, again, it only takes 2 seconds for somebody to grab some data and throw it out there. Sometimes that data doesn't look like it might be something that could put the company at harm or infringe a data protection mandate, but it does happen. And it's, yeah.
I want to throw this question from Gary Longsign to you, Rob. It's really long. And actually, the second part, I think he verges off. I want to stay on this first part, though. He says existing foundational models, Gemini, Chat, GPT-4, Llama, etc., are notoriously bad at negation. If you ask it to write a paragraph without mentioning elephants, you'll get an essay with more elephants than if your prompt doesn't mention elephants at all. I've seen this happen many times, and it's so darn frustrating. I literally, I'll scream at the Chat GPT. I'm like, no, don't mention the elephants. Do it again, but take the elephants out. So it has a hard time. I said, the Boolean phrase, something not this. It has a really hard time with not. Why does it struggle with that, Rob? And is there an alternative to negation here?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason that it struggles is that it doesn't necessarily understand grammar per se. I mean, it sees the word elephant in the chat history in there. Therefore, that makes the word the token elephant more likely to be drawn randomly when it's generating the next response. So fundamentally, it does not understand grammar. It's looking for.
So, but is there an equivalent then in AI? Because one of the things you say is we tell it if you don't know something, it's okay to admit it. And James Sparenberg had that great tip as well. So what is the equivalent in negation of don't include this, don't do that? Chris, you're nodding your head. Either one of you jump in. What's a better way of getting it to make sure it doesn't do the thing you don't want it to do? Either you?
Yeah, no, I would definitely recommend not using negation in your prompts and trying to build everything kind of constructively, and then yourself kind of peeling things out after the fact.
So the idea is don't tell it elephants, but then do a search for the word elephants afterwards and see if it used it. Yes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
No double negatives within AI. That's my policy. When I input requests and whatnot, I try to avoid double negatives. All
right. We got to wrap this show up. So we just have a few minutes, but I have a final questions for both of you. So everyone stay here, and everyone's sticking around for a meetup. By the way, if you haven't clicked the link at the bottom of the screen for registering for our 5:30 event, please go do that. Hey, Thoropass, thank you so much for sponsoring today's event. We greatly appreciate it. Don't anyone go where you go, because we're going to have a meetup portion at the end of this show here. All right. We have Dan Holden, the CISO over at Big Commerce. He will be our guest for Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review. That'll be starting at 3:30 Eastern. So we are just, how far out are we? 11. Oh, so we are almost an hour and a half out, a little bit more than an hour and a half out. Always a fun show. We do that over on YouTube. So just go to youtube.com/CISO series, or just go to our website and go to the events page, and you'll see the link there as well. Super easy. And you can, by the way, do you know that you can kind of, when we have these out, you can, register for them and know when the next one's coming out. All right. Now let's change that link at the bottom right now, Josh. Look at that. That fast. That's how fast Josh is. If you click that link, you will head over to our chat room on Discord. I will be there once this show opens, or once the show closes, I'm sorry. I will be over there, as will Rob and Chris as well, and I hope you are there as well. If you've never joined us, you're exactly the person I want you to show up. So join us. It's fun. You get to meet your fellow friends. We can continue talking about this, or heck, anything else you want to talk about, but we want you there. So please go ahead and do that. Also, I should mention, if you want to sponsor a Super Cyber Friday, we've got events coming up in June. So please ping me and we can get you scheduled as well. Just email us at david@cisoseries.com or info@cisoseries.com. We'll get it either way. All right. Here's my question to you, Rob. We have how much time? We got 6 minutes left. My question is what have we not talked about with regarding to the validity of GenAI that we need to talk about?
That's a good question. I think for me, we didn't really talk about like model configurations too much. We didn't talk about kind of letting Claude use your computer and click around through the AWS console, which I think one day is going to become very much a thing. Kind of letting agents poke through your cloud
So
environment.
yeah, well, we didn't get too much in it. And also this title was about Gen AI, but yes, next stage is the agentic AI, which was kind of all the buzz at RSA this year as well. But let's go back to the model thing. What were you saying about that? Please double down on that.
Right. So I think it's going to become very common for auditors to kind of look at how you're calling into AI models. I was talking briefly about kind of the interface with the OpenAI API, right? You give it a chat history and it generates a new message. You also set the temperature of the model. But another thing that you will do with the model is give it a quote unquote system prompt, which tells it basically how to behave and react to questions. And so I think over time, you're going to see those kinds of system prompts and what you're allowed to tell the AI to do and not do become part of the compliance frameworks. Like, I really think that that is something that is being overlooked right now, but is really critical.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, I'm going to throw the same question to you, Chris. What have we not discussed that we should have discussed during the show? And we can discuss it now because we have a few minutes.
Well, I would say just doubling down on handling practices. I mentioned it a little bit before where I was trying to stumble into another answer, but it was talking about the proactivity that AI can bring to the table. And that might be as easy as just using it for automated documentation generation and things like this, like where there's no fear or there's nothing that can come into play around data lineage or provenance or data retention and sovereignty, where you might be you're just not using test data essentially. So it's one of the areas that I think that we can focus on a little bit more within AI models and using those in particular for audit, where it can be used to check more often, right? Like real-time monitoring and alerts to sort
That's
of
a good point. We didn't
check,
talk about that. Yeah.
check the audit. Yeah, exactly. And validate the audit. Validate was one of those words. Was that the word? I don't know if that was the most search word, but that validate.
I don't think it was.
I don't think it was, but it is in my head. So I think I chose it. So, validating the audit. This is a piece where,
And so having it build the model and then like having it do it periodically, keep checking for you to see, because we talk about this all the time, you're compliant today, but maybe not tomorrow.
that's right. Get away from point in time compliance. And I mean,
Right.
compliance has been screaming this for years and years now, that we need to do this continuously. We need to be proactive. But
Right.
well, why not use a great model like this to up the ante and essentially produce a situation where we're as proactive as we can possibly be?
By the way, I want everyone to click that, go to the little bar chart on the right where you can get the warm handoff to ThoroPass because it will help you with just this. And you can learn more about this from ThoroPass. But we also have the demo that Chris did for me. I want to thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
all your wisdom today on this topic. This is a really, really good topic. And please, everyone, come back on the 30th when we talk about provable security. We're talking about provable compliance, provable security. It's all in the same vein. And Rob, you were fantastic as well. Greatly appreciate it. He's in Los Angeles to go see a concert, but hopefully he's going to join us at the Discord, which I want everyone to click that button at the bottom of the screen because we're going to end this in just a few seconds. So do me a favor. It won't disappear when we end this. It'll still be there. But go click that button, head on over to Discord. I'll be there. Rob, Chris will be there. And we want to see you there as well. Thank you very much. I want to thank also to our producers, to Rich, to Andrew, to Josh, and also brand new with the team is Chris. This was her first ever. She was watching this all from the wings. Hopefully she enjoyed herself as well. She's a new member of the CISO Series team. So thank you, everybody. Thanks to the team. And you can take us out now, Josh. Bye.